Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for the Facebook group called Fans of Serif Software, and the title of this tutorial will be Beginner's Guide Part 21, and looking at copying, cut, paste and a little bit of selection, because all those things you need are pretty basic items, and to a certain extent this video is probably really not needed because most people who use computers know how to copy, cut, paste and make selections, because you use that in word processing and I don't know, Excel files and just about anything, and it works pretty much the same way in photographic programs as well. But just in case you are fairly new to computing, and more importantly fairly new to photo editing, this will just be a fairly quick, hopefully, look at these processes. So basically the idea is, if you copy, you make a selection of what you want, and then you can either copy it, which is basically it just copies all the pixels within your selected area, and then you can paste it somewhere else, but the original will remain the same. If you use the cut option, again with whatever you selected, it will copy and remove all the pixels from the selected area, and you can then paste that somewhere else, but the original will be sort of ruined because you have taken all the pixels away. So I'm going to do a quick demonstration of this. I'm going to use this picture here, which I've got from the royalty-free program website called pixabay.com. They have a lot of very good free images that you can use for whatever reason you want to. So I'm going to use this one. Now I'm going to make a quick selection of this camera. Now there are various ways to make a selection. I mean, you've got the selection select menu up here, where if you wanted to select the whole picture you could use select all, and you have various selection tools down the side here. You have the rectangular selection tool, which also has the elliptical selection tool and other shapes that you can select. So if you, as we're on the rectangle, if I just draw a quick square with that black and white sort of marching ant type line round here, that area would be selected. Another selection tool, or tools, is three of them, which is the freehand selection tool, the polygon selection tool and the magnetic selection tool. I have looked at these in various previous beginners guides videos, so I suggest you have a quick look at those. But the selection tool I'm going to use here is the smart selection brush, because I just want to make a very quick selection. And let me just zoom in slightly. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint roughly over the area I want. It does take a little bit of time, and I am not going to be too fussed about how well this makes a selection. If I was going to do this properly, I probably would have used the polygon selection tool maybe, but I'm just using this for speed. And I will end up grabbing a bit of the outside edge, which I'm not overly worried about, because like I said, this is just for a quick demonstration purpose. But as long as I've got the majority of the camera, there we go. Right, it's a bit rough and ready, but pretty much the whole of the inside, or the camera is selected. So I'll just zoom out again, so hopefully you can see that dotted line going around the outside. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that camera image into this plain white sheet that I have ready here. So we come up to the edit menu. Here you have the cut and copy options. Now copy, you can either just click on this to get copy, or you can press Ctrl and C, and cut is Ctrl and X if you want to use the keyboard. So for the first part I'm going to use copy, and then I'm going to come to my plain white sheet, and then I'm coming up to edit, and then we come down to paste. Now you come over to the paste menu. There are three options: as a new image, which is Ctrl and V on the keyboard if you want to try that, or as a new layer, which is Ctrl and L, and blanked out at the moment is into selection, and we'll be looking at that later. If it's blanked out, you can't use it. So first of all, let's go for a new image. If I click on that, it will make a new image of your selection, and it will only have the selection in it, and the background will be blank. As you can see on my, this is a new document. I only had 3 to start with. I now have 4. And if I go back to my white sheet, because it is copied into memory, I can use it again straight away because it is still in memory. So I come to copy, paste, sorry, and then as a new layer, then that layer, let me reduce this color. I now have 2 layers: the background, which is the white sheet, and the second layer, or layer 1, is the photograph camera, I mean. So if I want to reduce that, I will just use a Deform tool, which gives you the actual size of that image. And if I hold down the Shift key, I can reduce the size of that camera to fit the page. So if I go back to this image here, come off of the, because it's still set up on the Deform tool, I'll come off of the Deform tool, and as you can see, that selection is still being made. So what I will do is I will just come to edit, and this time we will use cut, and as you can see, it has totally removed all the pixels that were selected. So I can come back to this image and then paste as a new layer. So now we have a new layer with the cut version of that camera rather than the copied version of that camera. Again, I'll use a Deform tool to reduce the size, and then just move it into a different position. So there I have used copy and cut. The results are exactly the same in the sense that all the pixels are taken from one image and placed into another. The main difference is I have ruined the original picture by using cut rather than copy. I think cut is probably better used in word processing and things like that. It's not always, well, I find personally, I don't find you need to use it that much in photo editing, but it is available if you wanted to use it. So I'll just need to quickly reload that picture, so I will be back in a second. Okay, I have reloaded this image that I got from pixabay.com, and so far I've shown you how to do a basic selection and to then copy or cut the image into either a new image or as layers to make up a new image in a different way. In this part here, I want to I want to install an image inside this inner frame, and the image I'm going to use is this one over here of Walton Pier. Let me go back to that one. So first of all, I need to select the inside of this frame. Let me just zoom in a bit. There we go. I could use the Smart Selection tool like I did with the camera, but that's quite good for large areas, but when you get close to the edges it can be a bit iffy. So what I'm going to use a polygon selection tool, and I just need to click on a start position and then draw around the inside of the frame. Now this is a good tool for this because you've got nice straight edges, so it's fairly easy to do. And then when you get back to your start position, there's a little square that comes just below the lasso. Hopefully you can see that, and then when you click at this point it will join up all your selection. I'm just going to modify this selection slightly by 2 pixels just to give it a slight helpfully blending into the frame. Let me zoom out. So we now have our selected area, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just right click on this background layer. Let me right click over it so the menu shows up better, and I'm going to click duplicate. So I now have 2 versions of that layer, and it is still selected, so there's not a worry there. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to press the delete key. Now hopefully you can see that in this representation of the icon, the middle of that has disappeared, but to prove it, if I unselect or hide the bottom layer, you can see that that has taken away all the pixels from the top layer there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my pier image, and this is where I want to select all. I mean, I could just select part of this if I wanted, but for this I'm going to select all, come to edit and copy, come back to this image here, make sure that the bottom layer is active and highlighted, and then come to edit, paste as a new layer, and as you can see that image is now inside the inner frame there. So I can press Ctrl and D to get rid of the selection area, and I will come to the Deform tool, and this, as you can see, you've got the size of the actual image, not just what is visible inside the frame. So again, I will hold the Shift key so it keeps its proportions, and drag in the corners as close as I want to dare. There we go, that will do. And if I zoom out, you can see that that image is now inside the frame. Now, it is one way of doing this. What I will do is I will delete that, and I will show you another way of doing this. Now again, I will make a duplicate copy of this top layer, and again I will use the polygon tool just to make a selection quickly. go. Just do a slight feathering. Right. Now this time, again using the same image, which is still selected, but just to make sure that I'm going to use all those pixels, I'm going to copy it again. It should still be in memory, but I'm not taking the chance. Come back to this image, and this time, instead of pasting as a new layer, I'm going to paste into selection. Because I have an area selected, this is no longer grayed out and can be used. So the keyboard option for this would be Control Shift and L. Now the difference here is, if I just click on this, you have to wait a little second while it does it. It reduces the whole picture into the selected area. I don't have to use a deform tool to get it to fit. In fact, if I go to the deform tool, it will only, as you can see, whereas before the deform area had the whole image, it was outside and I had to bring it in. Now the deform border is only to that image size. So using paste into a selection can save you a bit of time, because you're not having to use a deform tool. The only problem with that might be is if this frame had been at a slight angle, it may have ended up looking a bit weirder than if you'd used the deform tool to make it fit the frame better. It's a case of what works best for the particular image that you're using. So as you can see, that's two different ways of using copy and paste and selections and what have you. And I am now going to show you a third way. So let's delete this one and get rid of the selection area. And I'm going to again duplicate this background layer, and again make a quick selection. Hopefully quick. Just do a quick bit of feathering. Right, and then just zoom out. Now this time I'm going to use a layer mask, and to do that you come to Layers, Mask, Add Mask, and Hide Selection. Now if again, it's a bit like using the delete key that I did earlier to remove that inner selection, because if I hide the bottom one, you can see that it is removed the selected area. So I've just pressed Control and D to get rid of the selected area, and come back to my image. Now this is pretty much the same as I did before, in the sense that I can just come to the background layer and then edit, paste as a new layer, and that will, because the background layer was selected, it will put it above that. So I can then come to the deform tool. So this is basically just the same as doing deleting the selected area using the delete key. But it's probably a little bit more complicated, but it might be a slightly, for want of a better phrase, a slightly safer way, because once you've deleted it you can't sort of bring it back. But at least with using a layer mask, if you do think you want to take a little bit away or bring a little bit back, you can paint black or white onto the layer mask, and again that is covered in a previous video, which if you want to know more about layer masks and whatever you, I suggest you have a look at. So this might be the safer way. It might, takes a little bit longer, but it is a safer way to sort of protect your image. Now if you wanted to make, you can still make alterations to the image below that layer mask. So for example, you wanted, because this is like a vintage camera, you may want a vintage looking picture. So if I add an adjustment layer by clicking on this half black and white layer and I pick colorize, the colorized layer is still below the layer mask area, so it's only affecting the inside of that image. So I can hang on, where's the adjustment? So I've lost it. There we go. Expand. The adjustment is for the colorize, and I will use sepia tone. There we go. And I can collapse that again now because I don't need it. So I have my 4 layers, and I have my sepia image inside with the vintage camera. So basically that is the end of this video. It is a very quick and basic look, hopefully, at using copy, cut, paste and various types of selections. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.